All right. Good afternoon, everybody. I am John Basong. This is the Sales Vitamin Podcast, and I'm excited today. I have a really cool guest, Christine Schlonski. She is the queen of sales success mindset. That's how you know her. That's how you see her. She's a coach, mentor, trainer, lifestyle entrepreneur, and she's the creator of the Heart Sales Academy. I'm excited for a bunch of reasons because she's going to give you a lot of sales vitamins today, but the other reason is she's my first foreign, I would say, or European guest on the Sales Vitamin podcast. So that is really cool to me. And I think she thinks it's pretty cool. So Christine, welcome to the Sales Vitamins podcast. And thank you for taking your Friday afternoon to do this.
Well, thank you so much for having me, John. I'm so excited, especially because I am your first foreign guest.
That's right. That's right. Before we get going here, kind of give everybody just a quick background on what you do, where you're at right now, and your organization.
Yeah, love to. Thank you. So I work with mostly entrepreneurs, but also organizations with sales teams, actually helping people to redefine sales because oftentimes there's some reluctance in selling, in asking their price. So I just help people to make sales with ease, grace, confidence, and being authentic in the process and true to their values. So they have a higher impact and more fun instead of sales conversations.
Yeah. One thing I found pretty cool about as I followed you and looked at some of your stuff is you said you were living a big fat lie. And you had a very successful career in the event industry. So talk about that and tell the listeners, what was that lie and how did you come to realize that, and the background on what you did before you were the queen of sales success and mindset.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's probably, I would guess a lot of people live in that lie, right? We
Yeah.
were brought up in the belief that, go to school, get good grades, and then when you get good grades, you can go off to college or university for higher education. And then when you've done that, you have a really good chance to get a well-paid job. And then obviously you climb that career ladder, and then one day you're going to be happy. And that day, well, like where you feel totally fulfilled and happy, that just never came. Not with the next promotion, not with the next big commission check, not with the next whatever. And so I was like, well, something is wrong with the system because I am not living my full potential. And that was a big fat lie that I discovered, and that I know that many people are going through, that they are not really following their hearts. And at some time it becomes boring and you don't enjoy life anymore, right? Even though I was like really successful in what I did, I was lacking the part of the fulfillment, right? Being totally fulfilled.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I woke up one day thinking, well, this is not working anymore, right? I've done everything right. I was a good kid, mostly. I went to school, I checked off the boxes. I lived a year in the US, so my English would work and, I would have better chances in the job market. I lived a year in Paris, so I would also know French. I learned Spanish when I studied. So I was like, I ticked all the boxes, right? I did everything right. And then, I started my career and I started in the sales job, nothing, didn't know anything about sales. And in 7 years, I became the sales director, being one of the people like really performing over a long time, sticking around in a sales job. We all know there's a lot of people that can't even handle a year, let alone over a decade.
Yeah.
And then you think like, well, what else is there? Right. And yeah, I really had to realize that I was living that big fat lie of check your boxes and then one day everything is going to be fine. And it just wasn't.
How long did it take you? You were really successful, as you talked about, in the event sales, I think is what it was, big ticket event
Yeah.
sales, I guess. How long did it take you to figure out, this isn't what I thought it was?
Well, I loved the product. I loved my clients. The challenge was that I started a path um, that had to do with self-development. And I think, I was really unfulfilled. I felt like I'm losing energy each day. And just going to work, just the thought of going to work, like really stressed me because I was in that system. We had to be there at a certain time and you could only leave at a certain time. You only had certain day of vacation. And it was so rigid. And so I thought, well, something's wrong with me because obviously it can't be the system. So I started on that self-discovery path. And when I saw, well, there is a thing called self-development, there is a thing that you have to take responsibility for your life, that you have to make sure that you do what you love to do. And I did love my job. So starting that self-development path really helped me to double and triple my sales.
Wow.
And they weren't really, they were good before, but that really put some extra on it. And so I was pretty excited for a moment. Then again, realizing, oh, there is a conference in the US I'd like to go to, but I don't have vacation, right? Or there's something going on over here, but I have to show up for this event. And so just the container became too small. And so I decided I need to do something where I can be my own boss eventually, because the setting didn't work. So the job I loved, like talking to people over the phone. I mean, how easy is that? You just pick up the phone, you don't need to go anywhere, and you have a good conversation most of the time, taking out those people that say no or slam the phone or laugh at you,
That's all
which
right.
every sales professional listening can probably relate with. But you don't need to focus on that. You can focus on those amazing clients who give you their credit card right away, to sign the contract, and who make you happy.
Yeah.
And then you focus on those.
Did you, so you came to that self-realization, and then you kind of found a little niche market there, I think, or with entrepreneurs, and you kind of talk about where some of them, and I don't know the percentages, but aren't, the sales piece of it is where they struggle, and that's where you kind of come in and teach them and train them. So tell the listeners about that.
Yeah. So, like on that self-development path, I was really struggling with, um, getting to the next level, understanding what was going on for me. So I could not find a coach. And that sounds pretty horrible, just saying it like this. But I still had the idea that I have to sit with someone in a room to get coaching. I didn't know anything about online coaching.
Right.
So I couldn't find someone that I resonated with. But what I found was coach training. So I was like, oh, I'm going to be smart. I'm going to tick another box, right? Let's do the coach training. So I have more value in the market because now I'm like officially a coach. I can coach the teams I built. That adds value to the company. And so I became a coach. And in that coach training, I realized we had this one day where we were taught how to sell ourselves as coaches. And I think I was the only one in the room that was cool with the idea.
Yeah.
That's what you have to do. Even if you want to follow your heart, you have to put food on the table. And to have impact, you have to sell something. Otherwise, you have a hobby, not a business. And that's when I realized that there is something going on where people really struggle with the idea that they need to sell. So, I kind of became friends with the idea, and walking my own path, I realized more and more, oh, it's not just the coaches in my group. It's the entrepreneurs I'm meeting, the people I talk to at conferences that have really amazing gifts, services, products. They don't really know how to sell, and they don't feel good selling. Why can't they have a fun conversation making an offer? Why do they have to freak out? Why do they have to become a different person when they transition into making an offer? And that's when I got that the glimpse, the idea for who my people can be and who I can serve to make a really big impact in a short amount of time.
That's interesting and cool. Um, you're also the creator of the Heart Sales Academy.
Mhm.
Tell the listeners about that. I know your focus is really on the heart, and that's kind of how you approach selling. But tell the listeners about the Heart Sales Academy. What what started that for you, and what's the main emphasis behind that?
Yeah. So, when I started coaching entrepreneurs, and I've also some people who are salespeople in a company, but they don't really know how to differentiate themselves from others.
Right.
And a big difference that happened for me is I read a book, and you might be familiar with it. It's called The Go-Giver,
Yeah. By
Bob
Berg.
Popper and John David Mann. And when I read the book, I was still in corporate, and I thought, really? I mean, as a salesperson, can you support someone who doesn't buy from your company? Is that even a thing? I mean, is that allowed?
Yeah.
So it really shifted my mindset, and I started to connect people. I started to create like a network, and I started to focus on the heart first and then on sales. So it was kind of natural that when I went out, I wanted for people to drop into their hearts and to really come from that place of love and service when they offer whatever they offer. And so I found a podcast a while ago called Heart Sells. And it took me really long choosing a name. And I wanted to make that play on hard and heart, because a lot of people shy away from sales because they think about movies like Wolf of Wall Street, Boiler Room, Glengarry Glen Ross, right?
Right.
ABC, always be closing, coffee is for losers, blah, blah, blah. And in nowadays, people can't really relate with that anymore.
Right.
And it's very masculine and very driven, but it's totally outdated. So I wanted to play with the words. So I was like, well, it doesn't need to be the heart with a D. It can be the heart, like really coming from that place where you serve, where you are authentic, where you're just you. And you can sell your products and services with so much more ease because you don't need to pretend to be someone you're not. And that really resonated. So people just loved the idea. And then I thought, okay, what can I do next? So I summed it up in the Heart Sales Academy, which includes group coaching programs, online programs. It hosts a podcast. So like it's basically the place for people who want to learn heart-centered selling or heart-based selling, and who want to feel good when they make offers, when they have conversations, and really redefine sales for themselves and shift into that space where they have fun conversations and convert happy and paying clients, instead of going for the struggle, the push, and the feeling of, oh, am I too salesy, or is this too sleazy, where it can just be a natural process.
Yeah, I saw your podcast, the 244, I think, is the episodes you're at. So a ton, and they're really,
Yep.
really good, well
Thank you.
done. And how hard is it for someone, for example, let's say that, Christine, you've been hired and you're coming into a sales organization and you're going to teach them your process, and it may be a little different and unique, like you said. What are the struggles or the challenges you see with some of the sales professionals undoing that older, outdated process?
Yeah, I think first of all, it's understanding that you serve in a better way. I feel all the time when you do not show up as yourself, you are wasting lifetime. And going into this organization, I mean, you kind of get a sales team presented. So you have to work with what's or who is there. And the personal challenge I have is I don't want to work with people who are not motivated, right? And I really want to work with people who feel that they do the work because they know the product supports their clients. Obviously, we all want to make money. And as a sales professional, we all need that commission and we want that commission, right? It also shows how successful we are, how well connected we are, how good we are in what we do. So obviously, that's like a measurement, like the more commission you make, the more successful you are eventually. But when you do it, so when I really changed for me and I dropped into that hard space, I was still a sales professional. My revenue doubled and tripled. I couldn't believe it myself when I really connected to what I teach people now, to connect with their hearts before they make the call. You will be surprised how people are opening up, how different your conversations are, and how much fun they are, right? Sales doesn't need to be stressful,
Right.
right? Obviously, in a sales organization, you always have like those numbers and those goals and your KPIs and all of that. But if you just strip that all away and you just focus on the person you're calling with the intention that you're going to come from your heart, that you will have a really fun conversation, offering them the best your company has to offer, the quality of your conversations will change. And people will appreciate you more. They will, love you more, love like that gets returned. You are not the pushy, sleazy person that, disturbs their day with your phone call. You don't need that push. You're talking to a human being, and no, I haven't met any human being so far who likes to be pushed all the time.
Yeah. The metrics, that's interesting and powerful because that's not something you can measure, the hard, or, you can measure the results that you were talking about, and you could measure that, you doubled and tripled your income. But the key was something that you triggered that was probably, you can't put that in a KPI or a metric, right?
No, you can't. And that's also, and if you're listening and are a salesperson and you have a boss, just be prepared. They might not understand. So you have to show them the results and then they will not bother you anymore. Right? So just give it a try. Like before you even pick up the phone, set the intention that this call is just going to be amazing and you're going to have a really, really great time together, and you will make your offer no matter what you offer. Obviously, you have to believe in your product. If you don't believe in your product, you're just there because you need to make some money, well, find something else. I think it's really important that you believe in what you do, because then your sales will be so much stronger. I probably could sell, well, my guess would be I could sell anything I wanted to sell. But the question is like, do I really want to sell this? Is this giving value to another person? And for me, I found there are many things that I don't see value in, and I would not want to give to another person or sell to another person. So I'm like really clear on what I want to sell and what I wouldn't want to sell. So I think when you have that clarity as a sales professional and you figure out you are in the wrong space, you need to shift so you can have that heart connection, and then you will see you're going to strive. I mean, there's no other way. If you put in the work and you put in the heart, you connect your head and your heart, I don't see any reason why you should not be in a much, much better way and place that you are right now.
So that mindset, I know, a big part of your process is that mindset, and that goes
Mhm.
back to this heart. How much of the sales, your not only your success, but the people that you work with, the entrepreneurs, how much of that would you say is attributed to that mindset piece of it versus the technical skills that they may not have from a sales standpoint?
I would say at least 95%.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, when you really shift your mind, I mean, I always say like every monkey could say, well, that's my offer, it's 10,000. But if you don't say it in a way where you believe it with every cell in your body, where you really own that offer, where you believe in that offer and that it's a right offer for your client, people will just feel it. So if you figure out your mindset and you're in the right place and you are super excited about making that offer, right? Just think of it like you have seen a new trailer for a movie that's coming out and you are so super excited about the story, about the actors, like you can't wait to go. You can sell your friends to come with you, right?
Yeah.
It's nothing difficult.
Yeah.
And you probably have, your car filled up in no time and you are off to the movies. So you can do that with anything that you are having the belief in of being wonderful for someone, of really providing value. So when you put your mind around that, the how to's is just the second logical step, right?
Yeah.
How do you package? What should the price be? That kind of follows natural once you own the product or service, once you really understand what an impact it makes for others.
Yeah, that is powerful. You have it's called, what I believe it's the Sales Mentality Makeover. Is
Mhm.
that right? It's a virtual event, and tell the listeners about that. I mean, I think I was looking at that and I thought that is pretty powerful. That's some big names and some things. What does that entail?
Yeah, so the sales mentality makeover is actually an event that happens every single year,
Okay.
and I gather different experts each time to talk about spiritual and practical steps to increase sales and to create real wealth without losing authenticity.
Okay.
And yeah, I just had one that finished off. But the good news is we will put it online as like an evergreen so people can go back and enjoy the experience like it would be live.
Yeah.
And yeah, there were amazing teachers teaching in the field of mindset, of sales, money, and wealth creation. Like Wendy Weiss, the queen of cold calling, Lenka Lutonska, who teaches sales, like energetic sales, with like a spiritual touch, very amazing. Coach Michael Bird, who teaches like how to kind of unleash the monster in you. And with the monster is like a legendary creature, right? It's not the thing that comes out of your closet at night to to scare you. It's like
Yeah.
this legendary something. How can you become a legendary salesperson? So yeah, it's really a wonderful experience, and I had such great feedback of people watching and saying it totally changed their life, their businesses, getting the information of what to do in a sales conversation, what are the best questions to ask. Yeah, just really learning about sales. So thank you
And
for bringing that up. I'm very excited about this event.
yeah, no, I saw that and I was like, that is pretty cool. And like I said, virtually it can be done from anywhere.
Yeah.
Anybody can benefit from that and get value. What about your sales power formula? I saw that as well. What is that about? And tell the listeners about that.
Yeah. So I came up with a sales power formula, and power is like an acronym. So a lot of people I discovered are afraid of sales because they have had a past experience that triggered or that helped them not to feel good. So the P basically in power stands for the past. And when you can switch and understand that naturally you don't mind about sales, but there might be someone in your family or yourself who has purchased something that wasn't a good decision. And if it's a pack of gum, that's fine. You throw it away, you move on, you don't think about it. But for some people, that might have been major investments that threatened their kind of existence, right? And so these experiences, they're pretty powerful. And when you go out yourself to sell, you will have this experience with you subconsciously. And you might not even realize because you're thinking, oh, I have this great product, I'm just going to offer it. But then in the back of your mind, you go, I don't want to be like this salesperson, right? They tricked me. They they got everything out of me, and I couldn't pay my bills and I had to ask other people for my, like, whatever the story is.
Right.
So the past discovers the story and why you might be blocked, or not in your sales game where you want to be. Then the O has a look on the outcome. And oftentimes, especially when we are like a salesperson in a company and we work for commission, right? We want to cover ourselves first, right? It's like, oh, how can I make the money so the rent is paid or the mortgage? I have food on the table and I can do all the amazing stuff I want to do. And the O actually turns like that outcome into opportunity, but not just for you, like what's in it for your client. And then we also go really, really deep when I teach that in my courses. We go really deep on, okay, what do you actually sell? Like, for example, if you would say, well, I'm selling interior design, what else do you sell? Well, you bring beauty to homes.
Yeah.
Well, what does that do? Well, sitting in a beautiful room might relax people. So you take away stress. Because you've taken away stress, now that person has a brilliant business idea, right? And that brilliant business idea makes them X amount of dollars, right? Or they have a difficult conversation with their spouse, and instead of fighting, they're pushing through, and life becomes so much better, and they're more happy. Like, like there's like these deeper layers where you can go deeper and deeper and deeper. So
Yeah.
you fully understand, what are you selling, right? You don't just sell a product or a service. Like, there's all these deeper layers. So that is what the O does. So if the full understanding about your service and product, then the W is for your why. And again, here we go deeper. It's not just, well, you do it. Well, I do it to pay my mortgage. I do it for my kids so they can go to college. That might be part of it, but it's probably not your deep why. What's your deeper why? So we discover the real why. And that's super powerful, because if it's not really working in sales, you can always come back to this big why. And that will fuel you and that will give you the energy. Then E is all about emotion handling. Oftentimes people don't know that they can handle their emotions. And you can manage your emotions, right? When people slam the phone on you, right? Or maybe somebody insults you over the phone or something, like, how do you handle this? How can you turn that into something that fuels you instead of, that kind of takes you away from making sales calls? And then the R is for the results. Obviously, if you are in a sales profession, you're in a company, you know what KPIs are, because your sales manager or your sales director or whoever will tell you. But as entrepreneurs, oftentimes people don't realize that there are certain numbers they need to have a look at to understand how effective they are working. And then they also learn to understand, like, what needs to be tweaked so it's easier for them, right? So when they work with me, for example, and I know they have to make 10 calls to, win one new client, then you don't necessarily need to go out and get another 10 calls to win the next client. We could look at stuff like, what can you do to have wonderful conversations that out of 10, you have 2, 3, 4, 5 clients, because you already put that energy in. So we could work on the closing ratio instead of on getting more leads. And a lot of people say, well, I don't have enough leads. Well, it's not really the leads oftentimes. Oftentimes it's you're not making enough out of the leads, or you're getting crappy leads that are not qualified, that are not your soulmate client, as I call them.
Right.
And therefore you don't have that connection.
Yeah, absolutely. So the quantity over that quality of leads like that. Now, how have you adjusted to the pandemic and the COVID-19 from your a lot of Zoom calls, and how have you instructed or worked with some of your clients throughout this pandemic issue?
Yeah, so a lot of work I had to do was reminding people about their leadership. And when the pandemic started, I hesitated myself because it's a new thing, like it's a flu, like it's gonna go away in 2 weeks and everybody's will be back to normal. But then I realized, well, I can't put my head in the sand. So I decided I'm not going to follow the news because then I will freak out. I'm just going to focus on delivering value and on helping people to run their business more effective.
Right.
So having calls and talking about leadership, right, instead of KPIs, for example, reminding people what they do for their people and why their people need them now more than ever. That was a big piece of it. And then also helping them to restructure offers, right? So that somebody in a pandemic where they don't know what's going to be next week or the week after, they might not book your 1 year program at the moment. So you need to give them or make them an offer that helps them right now to move forward, to gain momentum.
Right.
And that gives them the opportunity not to freak out about the long-term commitment. But give them a short-term commitment. Do it like 6 weeks, 8 weeks, maybe 10 or max 12, and then you take them through that phase, and they see what happens for them, and then you can make another offer instead of really insisting on people have to book the year because that's all you offer. But then restructure. So restructuring work, leadership, and also like giving people hope, because we know that when we look back in history, there have been times of crisis. It will always happen. But the question is like, how do you react to it? And how do you give people hope? Because people will remember how you make them feel. So if you are running around like a headless chicken with the rest of the crowd, after it's over, they're not going to remember you as the leader or the person that gave them that good feeling of hope. Like, at some time it's going to be over, and when it's over, where do you want to be? And help me to guide you. So that those are the three main areas I worked on. So and people who took that advice have pretty good results. Some suffered depending on the product and service they have.
Right.
But most of my clients really got through this in a beautiful way. And, taking that time to go back to themselves, to remember who they are, to think about what they want to offer in the future, and kind of preparing and also kind of securing what was already in place and claiming that leadership, making clear that they are the person to go to in their industry.
Yeah, that's a great advice. I mean, kind of the reflection piece of it's pretty powerful too, using that time.
Yeah.
I got one more question for you. But before we do that last question, I want you to tell everybody, where can they get a hold of you? What's the best place to contact Christine Schlonski to make sure that they can hear your stuff on the podcast and your website?
Yeah. So basically just hop on over to christineschlonski.com. Christine is with CH, and then Schlonski is SCHLONSKI.com, and there you find the podcast tab, so you can listen to the podcast, and obviously you can hop on over to iTunes or Stitcher. It's Hard Sells Podcast, and subscribe. And everything else like happens on the website, and you can sign in for the empowerment notes, and that's basically empowerment right into your inbox, where I share tips, advice, like all the cool stuff I'm going through and stuff I don't share on social media, and also the updates of Hard Sales Podcast, so you always know like who's the guest for the week, what's going on, and why are they featured.
Okay. And listeners, you need to get over to that website. It's awesome. And you can also find the virtual mentality makeover information there as well. So make sure you get to that website. Her stuff is awesome. One last question for you. So if you have a customer or a client or a professional in sales that you're working with, but you can only give them one sales vitamin that's going to help them, what's that one sales vitamin you give them?
Love.
Love. Good one.
Yep.
Awesome. And I wouldn't expect anything else from the heart cells queen. But I've appreciated you being on the show. I know it's uh, time is valuable, and I appreciate you spending that time and giving the information, all these sales vitamins. So thank you so much for being on the show and coming on today.
Well, thank you so, so much for having me. And I just loved your questions. You have an amazing, amazing show. I really want to encourage your listeners to share with their friends and their colleagues, because that's what you need. Like, vitamins are vital, especially in these times.
Absolutely. All right, everybody, get over to her website, ChristineSchlonski.com, and start taking those sales vitamins.